They do have great voices.
So do we.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, baby. Let's start the show.
I should go higher. It will be funnier if I talk higher.
So, I got hit in the head. I got hit in the head hard.
Why?
Real hard.
With what? Sarah?
Well, no, not yet.
Okay.
But, so I am teaching and it's the very end of the class and I'm talking to the students, right? We're social distancing. They're all 6 feet away. And we have these plugs hanging from the ceiling. And these plugs are really coming in handy because the kids need to plug in their computers.
Okay.
Normally, we wouldn't have kids with their computers because we're in a computer lab. But we have these plugs hanging from the ceiling, and the kids plug in. And so the class is over. The Zoom kids, I let them go. And so we have like 2 minutes before the bell rings, before the kids can leave for their next class. So I'm sitting down, and I'm relaxing. I'm talking to them. I've got my hands behind my head, and I'm just telling them funny stories.
Yeah.
And we're talking about these dangling, hanging outlets. And I'm telling them that one day, I said, you're not allowed to swing these dangling, hanging outlets. I mean, they're 20-foot cords, but you're not allowed to swing them. I said, but one time, I swung them. And they're like, well, why can't we swing them? And I'm like, because you're going to hit someone in the head, right? You don't want to hit someone in the head.
Right.
So I said, one time when I had my Zoom camera for class facing in the direction of the class, so you could see all the cords hanging, before class started, I really quickly swung each one of them. So they're swinging like 20 feet in each direction. And so I have these 6 dangling power outlets just swinging across the room. And so when I turned on the Zoom, behind me, it looks like a trapeze artist. It's all these swinging things.
Okay.
And so I don't know if even a single kid noticed it, but it was funny to me, right? I'm trying to mix it up.
Yep.
So I'm explaining to them the story, and there's an outlet directly above my head. Mm-hmm. And so I don't even stand up. I just reach up and I swing it. As I'm explaining that I've swung them all. And so they're talking. And so the story is over. And the bell's about to ring. And I stand up. And it full on, it probably weighs 10 pounds. And it just totally clobbered me in the head. And I'm surprised you can't see a mark, but right here,
okay,
it was instantly the size of a quarter, bright red, and I'm not kidding. I instantly everything went dark. I didn't even see it coming. Everything went dark. You know that smell when you get hit in the head? I don't know if you've ever experienced that.
I don't think so.
Smell. No, it's like it's the smell of concussion. But I've jumped off of diving boards and hit my head, and it's like this certain smell, and that's the best way I can explain it. But I instantly smelled that. My brain just shut off, and I blacked out for a second. And the kids in my class, their eyes were as big as platters. They couldn't believe it happened.
Was it the same class that you said they're not allowed to do it?
Exactly.
Or is this a different time?
It's within 2 minutes of when I said that.
Wow.
And,
within 2 minutes of saying because somebody's going to get hit, you managed to hit yourself.
Yeah.
Well, you taught them a lesson.
And I taught them a lesson. Oh, man, it was so embarrassing.
Did they laugh?
No. It was evident that it hurt. It was equivalent to taking like a framing hammer and just hitting someone in the head with it.
Dang.
It was serious. So, yeah. So remember that, kids. Don't swing the swinging power, the dangling power outlets, because you're going to get hit in the head.
If you stand up in
Man.
it. I mean, because
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how come you already were able to forget because you swung it, but it was still swinging when you stood up. So, I mean.
So it's directly above my head. So it's swinging, but it's not I'm not seeing it. And I'm telling a good story. When you're telling a good story, you can't be thinking about things dangling above your head.
Yeah.
And then you stand up and you get hit with a framing hammer right in the forehead.
What story?
Man,
What story were you telling?
the story of where I was throwing them. I was tossing them, and then I turned on my zoom. So yeah, no good.
That sucks.
So yeah, it does.
Well,
I have a couple of stories like that where it's like I am the butt of the joke, but it's for the benefit of the students. So
it's true. You say, I did this on purpose
yeah,
to show you what you should never do.
never swing the power outlets, or this is what happens.
I had a Berenstain Bears book that I liked, and it was like the father and son just had a day, and it was like all about riding a bike. And he says, now, son, this is what you should never do. And the dad always does all these incredibly stupid things. Like he says, no, you can't ride it yet. Let me first show you before I teach you. And it's all these different scenarios where now don't ride in the puddle. And he rides in the puddle and it's like over his head. And all these silly things like here, don't drive where there's all these rocks. And so then he goes and he wiggles and then he falls off the bike because he hits one of the rocks. And I thought it was a hilarious book because I'm a kid. And my dad hated that book because the dad looks like a total doofus. So he would never read it to me. And I think one of these days it just sort of wasn't there anymore.
Your dad threw it out?
I don't know if he did or not, but he did not like the book, and we don't have it to this day. Now, if he threw it out or we lost it, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things we don't have that we did back then, but yeah, my dad was not a fan.
Not a fan of the Berenstain Bears and the foolish father, huh?
Yeah, and I guess it's the Berenstain Bears, which I don't believe that. It's the old what is it? Something effect. Mandela effect.
Okay. What do you mean?
The Mandela effect is that people remember that the Berenstain Bears was pronounced like that last name was Berenstain.
Yeah.
And not Berenstain.
Okay.
And it's Berenstain. And it's like, I swear it was Berenstain.
Okay. So I'm looking it up right now. Berenstain. Okay.
Spelled totally not like Steen.
Yeah.
And you go, Stain would be easier. But no, it was Berenstain Bears. And it's like there's a collective memory where a lot of people seem to want to promise that they remember it being Berenstain.
Yes.
And that's always weird when you've got a group of people who are like, wait a minute. No, I remember that happening. And it didn't happen. Like Nelson Mandela dying and having a huge funeral on TV and being honored and everything like that. Never happened. And people are like, I remember when it happened. He died in like 2006
that's the root.
Or something like that. Okay,
So explain that. Like, I don't know the root of the original Mandela effect idea.
The idea of the Mandela effect is that there's a large group of people who remember things a certain way, but they can be demonstrably proven to be false. So, like for instance, C-3PO has one silver leg. And there are a lot of people who are like, no way. He never had a silver leg. But he does. And if you go back and you look, sure enough, on one side, C-3PO's leg is silver, not gold, like the rest of his
But it
body.
wasn't always like that. I mean, there were times where he had a silver leg and sometimes where he didn't.
Okay. Well, I
But
mean,
yeah.
I believe that there is a logical
But that's interesting.
explanation.
You're right.
It's like no one ever remembered that ever. And where it started was Nelson Mandela died in like 2006 or something, like something relatively recent. And people were like,
Yep.
wait a minute, I thought he died in the 90s or the 80s or something. And it's like they can actually picture the funeral and they remember. It's like they remember the event. But of course, you can't find that in any history books because it didn't happen. The Berenstain Bears was one where it's Berenstain. It's like,
Yep.
no, it's not. Like I read it, and the funny thing is with a name that was that, it's a book about bears.
Yep.
The last name of the author is Berenstain. It's an unusual last name, and it's long, and so everybody remembers sounding it out and coming to a different conclusion.
Yeah.
And so there's a few of them like that, like where it's, and some of them are stupid, and some of them are pretty compelling.
Oh, there was a movie, Hannibal Lecter. It's what's the movie called?
Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs. And there's a famous line from it.
Yeah.
He's saying something to her as she shows up, and what people remember is "Hello, Clarice." Clarice.
Yeah.
But he actually says "Good morning." So I don't know if he says "Good morning, Clarice," or if he just says "Good morning." But yeah, that's kind of interesting.
It is interesting.
But yeah, but I do remember him saying "Hello, Clarice."
See, you live in a simulation too, and it's glitching. It's a glitch in the matrix.
There
You
you
ever
go.
have deja vu, Steve? I thought it was funny when I asked you once if you knew what the Mandela effect was, and you said, "Yeah, it's when everyone that you remember from the past is Nelson Mandela."
Oh man. Yeah, people also remembered Billy Graham's death. People don't remember Neil Armstrong's death. I don't know which would you prefer? Would you prefer to be remembered as already dead, or would you rather you died and nobody even recognized that you did die? It's a bad situation either way, but
Yeah, I guess if people think you're already dead but you're alive, you got a fighting chance to remedy the situation. If you're dead and no one noticed, it's over. So I guess I always pick
Yeah.
life for me.
yeah.
That's what I
Okay.
would go with that one.
Yeah. It's interesting. Mother Teresa is the next one, but Mother Teresa died on I think it was like September 11th or something. Like she died at a time where like nobody heard about it.
Yeah.
And I forget what it was, but yeah. Interesting.
It's maybe the same day Michael Jackson died.
It may have been.
Or something
Is
like
that
that.
what-
No,
Do you remember that?
I don't remember that. I just
Okay.
make stuff up sometimes.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I mean, you have to.
Only if I know it's going to be forever stamped in the annals of the Good Ray Show.
Yeah, there you go.
That years from now, people can recall and say, yeah, look, he'll say anything.
Yeah.
Exhibit
So Mother
A.
Teresa died on the same day Princess Diana died.
Oh, okay, I was close. I knew it was
Yeah.
some famous lady.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome for that.
Me?
Yeah, whatever. I just read 40 Mandela effects, all of which were substandard. I should have gone to the really good examples of Mandela effect.
Right, which was the ones we already discussed, like Nelson Mandela and the Berenstain Bears, which is the one that's only good because it gets me. I'm like, something's wrong. If that's Berenstain, something is wrong. Something's off.
You know, it's funny. So this isn't the exact same, but it's a testimony of how bad human beings' memories are.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a professor who was teaching psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Evidently, those lessons stuck with me. He remembers being present during an accident. And in the accident, there was a Mustang, a bright red, beautiful Mustang, and a total piece of junk.
Mm-hmm.
And when the event happened, he wrote down in his journal exactly what he saw.
Mm-hmm.
And then a year later, there was a court case and they were trying to figure out what happened. And he told the police, I would be willing to make a report because I witnessed it. I wrote it down. I'm ready to go. I know what happened. So they pull him in and they say, all right, what happened? And he said that beautiful Mustang got sideswiped by that horrible junk car. And they're like, really? That's what you remember? And he's like, yeah, it's horrible. It's really a shame. And they're like, did you have any written record of this? And he's like, I did. I wrote it down in my journal. He gets it out. It's the exact opposite. The red Mustang totally sideswiped the junk car, but his mind flipped it because he preferred the red Mustang.
Wow.
So there you go. That's why I'll remember that Princess Diana didn't die.
I'm always going to remember. Yeah, well, that's a fact. If she did, though, you remember that she died
As
on the same
what
day,
I remember as Nelson Mandela.
on the same day as Nelson Mandela.
That's the only explanation.
Yeah. We're not gonna let our memories flip anything.
No.
She died on the same day as Nelson Mandela, and that's why Nelson Mandela is so obscure.
Yes.
All right.
And you remember who wrote a song about her, right?
Princess
The
Diana?
Beatles. Yeah.
Yeah, the Beatles. They're always getting recommended to my roommate on Spotify.
That's true. Yeah. I love that song. Rocket Woman. All right.
So
Inside jokes.
those are inside jokes, though, that a listener might get.
Yeah. So much fun for the insiders.
Yeah. All right. So you want to do Romans for today?
Yes,
This
I
is
do.
a great one. This is titled, God's Mercy is for Everyone. Finally, that's a nice... We need some good news today.
Yeah.
So Romans 11:25 through 36. I want you to understand this mystery, dear brothers and sisters, so that you will not feel proud about yourselves. Some of the people of Israel have hard hearts, but this will last only until the full number of Gentiles comes to Christ. And so all Israel will be saved, as the scriptures say. The one who rescues will come from Jerusalem, and he will turn Israel away from ungodliness. And this is my covenant with them, that I will take away their sins. Many of the people of Israel are now enemies of the good news. And this benefits you Gentiles. Yet they are still the people he loves because he chose their ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. For God's gifts and his call can never be withdrawn. Once you Gentiles were rebels against God, but when the people of Israel rebelled against him, God was merciful to you instead. Now they are the rebels, and God's mercy has come to you so that they too will share in God's mercy. For God has imprisoned everyone in disobedience, so he could have mercy on everyone. Oh, how great are God's riches and wisdom and knowledge! How impossible it is for us to understand his decisions and his ways. For who can know the Lord's thoughts? Who knows enough to give him advice? And who has given him so much that he needs to pay it back? For everything comes from him and exists by his power and is intended for his glory. All glory to him forever. Amen.
Amen.
So God's mercies for everybody.
That's all I got to say about that. No, yeah. So what did you think about this?
Well, I thought it would be like I read the cover and just judged it
Yep.
because I remember something that I don't remember who said it, but I thought really insightful. He said you can always judge a book by the cover, and this is a rare exception where it was actually a little more complicated than the cover.
I think it was the Nelson Mandela effect that was going on with that cover memory.
Yeah, I remembered this differently.
Yes.
But yeah, it's again, it's sort of a little bit of the same kind of a concept of, hey, he had chosen people and they rebelled, and so now he's saying, just so you know, now it's open for everybody. Reminds me of the parable of the wedding feast, where he invited all the important people, and then the important people didn't come. So then he told his servants, go out into the streets, get the shabby people like you and me. And because we're going to fill this up for the bridegroom, it's going to be a party. And if the ones we wanted, if high society won't show up, well, we're still going to fill the seats. And so it's kind of odd that, in one sense, we can look at the Old Testament and say, well, it was always like this, or it should have been recognized as kind of a fixed principle in the core of the message of between us and God, all the way back dating to Abraham. Mm-hmm. But the way Paul's describing it is kind of like a new deal. It's like, hey, since the Israelites rebelled, they're getting cut off. And we know it's after the fact because it's saying, but God promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and that promise isn't going to go away. So this is the deal. But this is really good news and benefits you Gentiles. So take it while it's hot. And it says that as soon as all the Gentiles convert, that's the end. Which is also weird. It's like there's a cap. It's like there's a number that God's holding out for. And then once that happens, then he's going to restore Israel to himself.
Yeah, that part reminds me of the Great Commission, right? And go out into all the earth and teach and baptize. And then there's another part where Jesus is sent. They ask him, Jesus, hey, when are you coming back? And he says, not until, every nation is reached. This sounds kind of reminiscent of that, but it says, but this will only last until the full number of Gentiles come to Christ, and then Israel will sort of be brought back under the fold. So it's almost like God knows that sometime in the future, it's going to reach the entire world, and it's going to, the people who are going to come to Christ, that'll happen, and then sort of the end happens, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, but his some of the people of Israel have hard hearts, but this will only last until the full number of Gentiles comes to Christ.
Yeah.
That's a strange.
And it makes me wonder, let's see what it says in the ESV. A partial hardening has come upon Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles has come in. And in this way, all Israel will be saved, as it's written. So I would say that that's not as, well, it's not as clear.
This chapter's hard.
It's,
9 and 11.
I'll tell you what.
I almost wanted to bail on it, but then I was like, no, I think we could do it. And now I'm going through it, and I'm like, I'm glad we did it because it shows that there's still a lot for me to learn. Because, I mean,
you are going to love chapter 12.
Yeah.
You're just going to love it.
Good.
This is, it's going to feel like easy reading for you.
Good.
You're going to love it. And we're going to see that next week.
Yeah, we're going to see that Monday.
Yep.
Did you have anything else on this?
Not really.
Not really. Me neither.
But we ended it well, I think.
I think so too. But isn't that weird? This is a case for the sovereignty of God being in charge of everything, and even the sin. Because it says...
the sin? Yeah, show me that.
In some ways, because it says... God has imprisoned everyone in disobedience so he could have mercy on everyone.
I knew you would go
That's
there.
That sounds manipulative from a human point of view. And then Paul's like, how great is God's riches and wisdom and knowledge? How impossible is this for us to understand? Even Paul's like, that's what it seems like he just told me, but don't ask me to explain that further.
Yeah.
So even Paul is saying this is a hard chapter. When you say something, okay, God's mercy's for everyone. I'm going to say a whole bunch of crazy stuff and then be like, how unbelievably great is God's riches and wisdom and power and knowledge? It's impossible for us to understand. So who can know the Lord's thoughts?
The ESV says, so they too have been disobedient in order that the mercy shown to you, they all may now receive mercy. For God has consigned us all to disobedience, that he may have mercy on us all. So he's allowed the disobedience.
Well, God obviously allowed it. This is the thing. It's kind of the funny thing of the example my dad gave of the little baby in the nursery and then the parents looking in the window above. The little baby has no idea that his parents are looking. The window's too high. And he's in his own world and he doesn't understand. He doesn't have spatial awareness. And so the parents look over and they see cookies or snacks in the middle of the room and the baby innocently wandering, but the baby's about to see the cookies. And then once he sees it, he immediately makes a beeline towards them.
Yeah.
Because he's a baby and he just wants the cookie. And so the idea is, well, the parents always knew. If they didn't want the kid to have the cookie, they would have removed the cookie from the area.
Yeah.
And, you can't put two humans in a garden and put one tree and say, okay, whatever you do, don't eat this one. And it's like, well, God knew what was going to happen. That's why he put the tree there. Otherwise, if God really didn't want them to eat the fruit, he wouldn't have put the tree there. It's like...
And he had to give them the choice or else...
And in a sense, they had to choose the wrong choice. Otherwise, there wouldn't be redemption. We would still be in the garden in paradise, and we would be more like angels than free will humans.
Yeah. And God did that so that in the end, we would choose him.
Mm-hmm. But it was always a setup. You don't have to take a very far step back to say, okay, obviously we didn't let God down. we fell into the very obvious trap that he laid, or at least he set it up knowing full well the outcome. And so obviously in
Yes.
his mind, the outcome was better than an alternative.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a result,
Here
we
we are.
have here we are, and it's so that he could have mercy on us.
Mm-hmm.
And how great is God's riches and wisdom and knowledge? How impossible for us to understand his decisions and ways. I mean, he allowed us to become sinful so that he could save us and have a genuine relationship with us.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of not allowing us to sin and just having us be automatons that have no choice whether or not we have a relationship with him.
Yeah.
And I think that God chose the right way. No. No, I mean,
you
it just
approve.
makes sense. I approve.
That's good. I do too. After consideration, I've decided that I can't know the Lord's thoughts and I can't give him advice, and I haven't given him anything that he would have to pay me back. So all glory forever and ever. Amen. That's my opinion. I just came up with that.
All by yourself.
Yeah. I thought that last one was going to be easier than.
It sounded like it.
Yeah. And when I was reading it, as I was reading it, I was so happy because I was hoping that this would be a little bit easier than yesterday's.
Yeah.
And I got about, I don't know, 3 sentences in. And I was like, uh-oh. And then when I got halfway in, I was like, we're in trouble. Not we're in trouble, but I'm in trouble.
But it's a continuation of the same thought.
Yes, it is. Surprise,
So.
surprise. Paul did circles around a topic. But in this case, he could have gone around again this time because I still don't get it.